Have you ever wondered why your ex suddenly started texting you out of nowhere after months of silence? What if I told you there are 5 psychological techniques that work so powerfully on the human mind that ancient cultures mistook them for actual magic? Today we're diving deep into the science behind what people have called love spells for centuries, and I guarantee by the end of this video you'll understand exactly why these methods are so devastatingly effective. But before we unlock these secrets, let me ask you something. How many times have you caught yourself scrolling through your ex's social media at 2 in the morning, wondering what went wrong? Or maybe you found yourself replaying that last conversation over and over, searching for clues about whether there's still a chance. If you're nodding along right now, you're definitely not alone, and more importantly, you're about to discover something that could change everything. The truth is, what our ancestors called love spells were actually sophisticated psychological techniques that tap into the deepest parts of human nature. Modern neuroscience has finally caught up to what shamans and wise women knew instinctively thousands of years ago. The human brain is wired in specific ways that make certain behaviors absolutely irresistible, and when you understand these patterns, you gain access to influence that seems almost supernatural. Now, I want to be crystal clear about something before we continue. This isn't about manipulation or forcing someone to feel something they don't want to feel. Real lasting connection can only happen when both people genuinely want to be together. What we're talking about today are ways to remove the barriers that might be preventing your ex from seeing the amazing person they fell in love with in the first place. Think of these techniques as psychological gentle nudges rather than forceful pushes. The first technique our ancestors would have called the spell of mysterious absence, but psychology knows it as the scarcity principle combined with intermittent reinforcement. Here's what makes this so incredibly powerful. When you suddenly become less available to your ex, their brain interprets this as a loss, and humans are hardwired to want what they can't have. But here's where it gets really interesting. If you disappear completely, they might just move on. However, if you appear briefly and unpredictably, like a shooting star across their social media sky, you trigger something called variable ratio reinforcement. This is the same psychological mechanism that makes gambling so addictive. Your ex's brain starts releasing dopamine not when they see you, but when they're anticipating potentially seeing you. Every time they check their phone, every time they glance at social media, there's a tiny chance you might appear, and that possibility alone becomes intoxicating. The ancient practitioners of this technique understood that absence doesn't just make the heart grow fonder, it makes the heart grow obsessed with the mystery of your whereabouts. The key is to be genuinely busy living an amazing life, not just pretending to be unavailable. Take up that hobby you always talked about. Travel to places you've never been. Surround yourself with new people who appreciate your energy. When your ex catches glimpses of this new version of you, they'll start questioning whether they really knew you as well as they thought they did. The second technique is what ancient love practitioners called the mirror of souls, but modern psychology recognizes it as strategic mirroring and emotional validation. This technique works because it triggers something called the similarity attraction principle. People are naturally drawn to those who remind them of themselves, but here's the sophisticated part. You're not just mirroring their current state, you're mirroring their idealized self. Pay attention to the person your ex aspires to be. Maybe they've always wanted to be more adventurous, more creative, or more spiritually connected. When you embody these qualities authentically, you become a living reflection of their highest potential. This creates a psychological pull that's almost impossible to resist because being around you makes them feel like the best version of themselves. But here's where most people get this wrong. They try to become exactly like their ex, which actually repels rather than attracts. Instead, you want to become the version of yourself that naturally complements their dreams and aspirations. If they've always talked about wanting to be more spontaneous, you become someone who embraces beautiful unpredictability. If they value intelligence, you dive deep into subjects that fascinate you. The magic happens when they realize that being with you brings out parts of themselves they love but rarely get to express. The third technique ancient practitioners called the phantom touch, and it's based on what neuroscientists now understand about mirror neurons and emotional contagion. This technique works by creating phantom emotional experiences that your ex associates with you, even when you're not physically present. Every positive emotion they feel while thinking about you strengthens the neural pathways that connect you with happiness in their mind. Here's how you activate this principle. When you do interact with your ex, focus entirely on creating positive emotional states. Share stories that make them laugh. Bring up memories that make them feel proud or accomplished. Ask questions that make them feel interesting and valued. The goal is to become associated in their mind with elevated emotional states rather than the stress and conflict that might have characterized the end of your relationship. This technique also works through what psychologists call priming. When your ex encounters certain songs, places, or experiences that remind them of positive moments with you, their brain automatically recreates those positive feelings. Over time, these phantom touches accumulate and your ex begins to crave the emotional highs they associate with your presence. The fourth technique was known as the Phoenix transformation, and it's grounded in what psychology calls the novelty bias and the contrast principle. This technique involves strategically revealing new and intriguing aspects of yourself that your ex has never seen before. The human brain is programmed to pay attention to novelty because new things represent either opportunities or threats, so they automatically capture our focus. But here's the brilliant part. When your ex sees you displaying new talents, interests, or perspectives, it forces them to recategorize you in their mind. They can't fit this new version of you into their existing mental file labeled ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend, so their brain has to create a new category entirely. This psychological disruption breaks their fixed ideas about who you were and what your relationship meant. Maybe you've learned a new language, developed a skill they never knew you had, or discovered a passion that lights you up from the inside. When they witness this transformation, it creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. Their brain knows you, but this new version of you doesn't match their stored memories, so they become psychologically compelled to gather more information to resolve this mental conflict. The fifth and most powerful technique ancient love workers called the destiny weaving, but modern psychology understands it as the creation of meaningful coincidences through heightened awareness and strategic positioning. This technique works because the human brain is constantly searching for patterns and meaning, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. Here's how this works in practice. You begin to show up in your ex's environment not through stalking or manipulation, but by genuinely engaging in activities and places where your paths would naturally cross. Maybe you start attending events related to causes you both care about, or you begin frequenting locations that hold positive memories for both of you. When you encounter each other in these contexts, their brain interprets these meetings as fate or destiny rather than mere coincidence. The key is that these encounters must feel natural and unforced. Your ex's intuition will immediately detect if you're trying too hard to manufacture these moments. But when they happen organically, something magical occurs in their psychology. They start to wonder if the universe is trying to tell them something. They begin to pay attention to signs and synchronicities that might indicate you're meant to be together. What makes this technique so powerful is that it works on both conscious and unconscious levels. Consciously, your ex might dismiss these encounters as random chance. But unconsciously, their pattern-seeking brain starts to build a narrative that you two keep finding your way back to each other for a reason. Now, here's something crucial to understand about all 5 of these techniques. They work best when you're genuinely focused on becoming the most authentic, fulfilled version of yourself rather than trying to win someone back. The most powerful love spell in existence is becoming someone so magnetic, so genuinely happy, and so aligned with your values that people naturally want to orbit around your energy. These psychological principles work because they tap into fundamental aspects of human nature. We're attracted to mystery, we value what seems scarce, we're drawn to people who make us feel good about ourselves, we're intrigued by novelty, and we're meaning-making creatures who look for signs and patterns everywhere. But remember, the goal isn't to manipulate your ex into a relationship they don't want. The goal is to clear away the misconceptions, hurt feelings, and false narratives that might be preventing them from seeing the incredible person you've become. True love can't be forced, but it can absolutely be invited, and these techniques are sophisticated invitations to your ex to take a fresh look at what you might create together. If these techniques have opened your eyes to the incredible power of psychology in relationships, make sure to subscribe for more content that bridges the ancient wisdom of human connection with cutting-edge insights from modern science. Your future self will thank you for understanding these powerful principles, whether you use them to reconnect with your ex or attract the love of your life.